Hello everyone and welcome to Just Drive. This is one of the fastest SUVs you can buy right now, the new Porsche Cayenne Turbo GT. Let's go. As the name suggests, this is the new spearhead in the Cayenne portfolio. First of all, let's talk about the general driving impression. As you would expect from a Porsche, it's pleasantly quiet in here. You sit a bit higher, the suspension, yes, well, it's really very pleasant. I mean, the roads here are relatively good, but if there's a bump now and then, it's also cushioned quite comfortably. So although the chassis is designed for the sporty aspect, they haven't forgotten about everyday usability. I like it in any case. Let's talk about the technical data for a moment, because you've probably all been waiting for this. 640 horsepower from a 4-liter V8 biturbo. It goes from 0 to 100 in 3.3 seconds. That's crazy for such an SUV. This Cayenne is the first of its kind to actually break the 300 km/h mark. But that still doesn't make it the fastest SUV out there, because that title is still held by the Bentley Bentayga Speed. How can you recognize a Cayenne Turbo GT? Well, from the outside there's a spoiler lip, the darkened main headlights, larger air intakes, here on the side the slightly wider mudguards in black, then the carbon mirrors, as well as the carbon roof, and at the back of the roof spoiler there are also small side blades, also in carbon look, and of course the centrally located titanium exhaust system. But of course you can't achieve that kind of performance on the public road, you have to go to the racetrack, and that's where we're going now. Since I'm just a normal driver, I got professional help. Some of you will recognize him, Walter Röhrl, first of all. Hello Walter. Hello Emmanuel. We can go to the racetrack and then Walter will show us how to drive such a car properly, won't he? Absolutely. Then, let's go. Let's go for it. Walter's career stretched from 1968 to 88, during which time he won numerous races and also world championships. Walter, you've been with Porsche for some time now and you've always been a bit involved in the development. What can you tell us about that? Yes, I've been with Porsche for almost 29 years now. Of course I've been involved in a lot of developments, and I have to say that I've also learned a lot, because when I started I always saw things from the racing driver's point of view, and for a racing driver the fastest setup on the car is the best. But I had to learn that I don't develop cars for racing drivers, but for normal people. The ease of driving and safety are the most important things. The normal Porsche customer buys a car like this and then at some point he thinks, I want to take my car to the racetrack. What does someone like that have to watch out for when they drive for the first time? The first thing you have to make clear is that suddenly the whole road belongs to him. That means he has more space, that means he has to steer less because he can let the car go, he can use more space and has to turn the steering wheel less, and if there's a secret to driving a car, it's to steer as little as possible, and you can practice that perfectly here on the racetrack. Because ultimately you can do the same thing on the public road, on your half of the road. Just don't force the car uselessly into the corners if there's room, because if every finger wide where I steer less, I have less resistance and more safety in terms of lateral control. Nowadays everybody is talking about hybrid vehicles, electrification, environmental protection, and then Porsche brings out a car like this. Of course, I've thought about it, but those thoughts have evaporated quite quickly when you know what emissions the production of the batteries generates, and then there are quite clear calculations that when the e-car drives out the shop door, it has already blown so many emissions into the atmosphere that I can drive 100,000 kilometers with the petrol car, even with a petrol car of this category, so that I'm at the same level zero as the e-car that's just leaving the sales shop, and that's reassuring, of course. And the nice thing about these cars today is that if you drive according to the traffic regulations, such a car can run on 10 liters of petrol. It's unimaginable. The car has 640 horsepower. 40 years ago, a Beetle with 34 horsepower needed 10 liters. In this day and age, you can live quite well with that, and you don't need to have too much of a guilty conscience, especially with all the particle filters that are available today. That was our test drive on the racetrack with Walter. Walter, thank you very much. It was really interesting, and maybe I'll have the opportunity to do a lap on the track soon. You should definitely experience it yourself to see, because when you drive yourself you get much more how perfectly this car drives. But before that, Walter literally lets the sparks fly. And then it's my turn. I know, Walter said, always take advantage of the road. That definitely sounds easier than it actually is, so you really have to get to grips with it a bit. But one thing is for sure, driving this car here is definitely a lot of fun. The acceleration, the sound, and then how fast you can drive in the bends, even though it's an SUV, that's really amazing. So there's definitely a lot of fun to be had. And even though we're going so fast, you can tell that the tires are designed for that, so here it only squeaks very, very rarely, but then it's usually not in the car, it's just me, because I steered too much, so it's crazy. How fast you're also just at 200. So, you don't look at the speedometer for a moment, accelerate here on the straight, out of the bend, and bang, you're doing over 200 on the speedometer. You can't really reach 300 on this track, the straight isn't long enough for that, but it's still a lot of fun. Unlike the other Cayenne versions, the Turbo GT is only available as a coupe. This is Porsche's way of underlining its position as a sporty top model. This is what it looks like, by the way. Some of you will remember the original Cayenne from 2002. At the time, a huge outcry, that's it. Porsche's finished, they can't build SUVs anymore, they can close down. They were probably wrong. The Cayenne was a huge sales hit. It still is today, and in the meantime you can even set records on a racetrack with this vehicle without any problems. And what better place to compete with the best of the best than the Nürburgring Nordschleife? The Nürburgring Nordschleife is considered one of the most demanding racetracks of all. One lap is approximately 21 kilometers long. The fastest lap in the SUV category was set by Audi's RSQ8 with a lap time of 7:42.253 minutes. And the Cayenne Turbo GT easily beat this time with 7:38.925 minutes. I think especially in the setup, it's always difficult, it's always a compromise. You have all kinds, all forms of curves, and if you really only set the car up for the Nordschleife and didn't focus on anything else like you can do with a race car, that would of course be easier. But also with the Cayenne it's just, we say the car has the comfort on the road like a normal Cayenne. The spread simply has to be wider, and of course all the experts and suspension experts are needed to really get that right, so that I'm happy after and you're happy out on the road as well. Like Walter in his day, Lars now helps Porsche develop new cars and also races for the brand. My conclusion on the new Porsche Cayenne Turbo GT: it's simply a fun car, there's no other way to put it. The acceleration values and how fast you can drive it through the curves and the sound, it's just awesome, just madness. But, one thing we agree on, this car is everything but one thing, which is sensible. Especially nowadays, when everyone is talking about saving fuel, hybridization, electrification, and Porsche just throws out a hammer like that. Of course, the car isn't for everyone, with an entry-level price of around €196,000, so you can bring a car like this onto the market.